This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. Today's video is going to be a quick one. It's just in commenting about Lady C's video that she put out today. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend it. It was an excellent and entertaining broadcast, particularly around what she says about Harry being dead to William. But the part that I'm going to be talking about is the chapter labeled Meghan Sued. So Lady C communicates that she has been in touch with Samantha Markle, and she is definitely moving forward with this appeal in suing Meghan for defamation. Now, from what I understand is that Meghan's strategic defamation campaign against her sister was designed not only to discredit her sister, but also affect her book sales in creating this multi-pronged, faceted plan to hit Samantha at all different angles. And one of those angles was the false claim that Samantha was put on this UK watched persons list, otherwise known as a fixated threat list by Scotland Yard. This all started around December 2018, where Mr. Markle had gone on television around the holidays and saying that he really would like to hear from his daughter. And being that it was the holidays, Samantha also went to the media to speak out and say that what Meghan was doing by ghosting her father was cold, cruel, heartless. It was the holidays, and Meghan had yet to call her father to check up on him to see how he was doing since the wedding. In any case, that must have been the last straw for Meghan, because now all of a sudden on December 30th, all the media outlets, not only in the UK, but also all over US media, that Samantha was on Scotland Yard's fixated persons threat list. The Sunday Times was the one to break this news, and from the Rhoda was Roya Nika, who reported on it. What's really interesting is if this element is going to be included in the appeal to show that Meghan truly was waging a campaign against her sister that had been going on for years, from the time that she announced that she was going to be writing this book, you can bet that all these journalists that went along to write these pieces are going to also be called out. So Roya Nika is part of the Royal Rota and part allegedly in this inner circle of journalists who have access to the royal family or to sources at Kensington Palace and Buckingham Palace. So imagine, as she writes here, when the sister of the Duchess of Sussex arrived unannounced at Kensington Palace in October, then sent a heavily publicized Christmas card calling for a family truce, she claimed it was a bid to end a bitter family rift. Samantha Markle's apparent attempts at reconciliation, however, appear not to have been received as an olive branch. Instead, Meghan's estranged half-sister, who lives in Florida, is understood to have been included on a fixed persons list by the Police Royalty and Specialty Protection Unit, flagging the reputational risks that she poses to the royal family. So the question becomes, where did Roya get this information? We now know, and there's evidence, that the palace did indeed lie for Meghan to try and cover up certain things. So what else were they trying to do to help the Duchess out when she was a working royal? Could it be that they went along with the scheme that Meghan was conducting to carry out against her sister? I think so. Let's all not forget that Jason Kanoff went along with Meghan in this manipulative letter she crafted to send to her father. And we must not forget that it was also Harry's communications team that released the information or leaked the information about Megxit to Dan Wooten. So could the communications team have done the same thing with carrying out a request for Meghan Markle, in this instance with Samantha? Sure, I think so. The US media, as well as the tabloid media in the UK, did such a great job at painting the Markles as this white trash family, to where I could see Kensington Palace going along with it because of protecting the crown and its brand. So this definitely was a campaign that was triggered off by the Sunday Times article, in which almost instantaneously on the same day, this same story then gets saturated all throughout U.S. media. Us Weekly, December 30th, 2018. Duchess Meghan's estranged sister Samantha Markle on fixated persons list report. From Cosmopolitan, December 30th, 2018. Meghan Markle's protection officers reportedly put her sister on Scotland Yard's fixated persons list. Samantha Markle's not having it. Then on December 31st, 2018, the pylon continues now with People magazine. Meghan Markle's half-sister has been placed on Scotland Yard's fixated persons list report. Followed by again December 31st, 2018, from Refinery 29. Scotland Yard is getting serious about threats from Meghan Markle's half-sister. The media gives Samantha one-day rest to start the new year, and then back on January 2nd, we see from Vanity Fair, Samantha Markle might just be on the Scotland Yard's radar. Then after that came the left-wing progressive news outlets that Meghan most likely was funding through the Sussex Squad. We all know the griot. Here on January 2nd, 2019, Scotland Yard puts Meghan Markle's half-sister on their list as she tries to publicly shame the Duchess again. It's bad enough that this was the news that was saturating over the holidays in the United States as well as the UK, but it didn't stop there. It was also headlines in France, Germany, Australia, Canada. All right, let's pause for a second because I want us to take a moment and put ourselves in Samantha's shoes. How would you feel if you wake up and see that your name is all over the papers, the magazines, people are talking about it online, that you are listed on Scotland Yard's fixated persons threat list? Think about how psychologically damaging that would be to not only your self-worth, your self-esteem, especially when society is looking at you now as a danger to it and don't want you to be anywhere near them. I think what Meghan did here was so incredibly cruel, and actually processing and seeing the enormity of how many articles that wrote about this, I couldn't imagine what Samantha must have felt like at that time, knowing that the world was now looking at her as if she was crazy. Think about how this affected her reputation, her profession, her career. Because, at that time, Meghan had saturated the SEO that all you would see when Samantha's name was Googled, it would come up that she was on this list, when in reality, this was a complete fabricated lie. Samantha was never on any Scotland Yard fixated persons threat lists. In trying to clear her name, Samantha hired lawyers in the UK to investigate, to get whatever records that the Met Police may have had on her to understand why she was placed on this so-called list, only for it to turn out then in March of 2019, it came back that she was never on any list, and this whole thing was a fabricated lie. And even though Samantha was able to come back with evidence showing that this was a complete lie, none of the media outlets that initially posted the story up at the end of the year of 2018 chose to go back and correct it or set the record straight, hence leaving it out there with people still to this day saying that Samantha is still on the Scotland Yard fixated persons threat list. So before the Markle versus Markle case was dismissed, this squatty right here was dedicated to trolling Samantha and repeating this narrative about Samantha being on this fixated threat list, and kept this narrative going as well as other narratives about Samantha, but was really focused on tarnishing and continuing defaming Samantha by putting up lies. And I don't know if it was being done on Meghan's command, but this person was certainly dedicated to making sure that Samantha's name was trashed. What I've come to notice about these squatty Sussex psychos is that there's certain ones that are dedicated for specific reasons. There are squatties that attack the royal family, and that's all they do day in, day out. Then there's squatties that go after anyone on social media, whether it be YouTube, Facebook, X. Then there's other squatties who are the ones who fawn over Meghan and daily tell her how beautiful she is. And then there's others who talk about like the things that Prince Harry is doing. The way that Meghan had set up this whole smear campaign against her sister to defame her, it wasn't just the Oprah interview, and it wasn't just Omid Scobie's book. It had multiple facets, and this was one of those facets. When you look back on this, during that time, Meghan was successful. Meghan did damage Samantha Markle's reputation. She did affect Samantha's credibility, thus in turn affected her book sales. Nobody wanted to buy her book. because nobody believed what came out of her mouth. In fact, people were making fun of her because of how Meghan painted her sister in the media, as well as what the squatties were doing to Samantha Markle. So when you look at all of this, sure, this was a malicious attack on her own sister. And to some extent, I do believe that she was trying to accelerate Samantha's disease to cause further pain and suffering to her by putting all this stress on her and jeopardizing her safety with these psychotic squad members. And what it looks like to me now is that they did see this as successful because they went ahead and did the same exact thing to Yankee Wally by slamming her and tarnishing her reputation and name, and then also saying that she was on this fixated person's threat list. Now, if you've been around for the last several years, you will know that Yankee Wally was equally treated as bad as Samantha was, with the berating, harassment, the doxing, as well as these lies that they were telling about her, smearing her, as well as spamming her YouTube account to finally get her deplatformed off of it. And this included not only the squatties and online trolls, but this also included some of the left mainstream media here in the United States, like Newsweek with Jack Royston and Smelly Hall from BuzzFeed. All of them amplified this situation in order to shame Yankee Wally. And to the extreme, they have been doing everything they possibly can to deny Yankee Wally the right to be a part of an online community. So not only at the time when all of this was going on, Yankee Wally was deplatformed from Twitter. She was then deplatformed from YouTube. Then they followed her over to Getter. Then they went over to Rumble. They were doing everything they possibly could to make sure that Yankee Wally was ostracized and exiled. In watching all of this go down, you could feel the hatred that Meghan had coming through these squatties in the way that they behaved and went after people. And the biggest thing that they're so obsessed with is they don't want you to make any kind of money. They want you to suffer. So they also deprived Yankee Wally the right to earn. So not only was she kicked off of YouTube and lost that income, but she also, I think, was affected on Rumble. I don't think her videos are seen. She can't really upload. And then at one point, I think the Cash Apps, they went after the Cash Apps. Even if people wanted to donate and give kindness to Yankee Wally, they wanted to shut that down and give people no way to give to Yankee Wally. And knowing that both Meghan and Harry funded, supported, and encouraged this type of behavior, it makes them look that much more malicious, cruel, and heartless. And this is why I want to see Meghan's feet held to the fire. So much has gone on over the last 6 years that not many people know the full story from beginning to where we are right now. So I think it's important that we continue to keep putting our receipts up and keeping the timeline straight as well as the facts straight and holding these people all accountable, because at some point justice will be served, and I truly believe that. But what do you guys think? If you have receipts, definitely, give them over to Samantha. Let her have it. I think now is the time to give what you got. And that way, Peter Tickton and Samantha's team can put together a solid case. So this time around, it does not get dismissed. I think this is really the last shot that we have to seeing justice prevail in this situation. But definitely let me know your thoughts. As always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Truth by creating an incentive for untruth. Far from caring about the harmful effects of algorithms, the social media companies and their allies stroke competitors in the press rely on them, I think, to make money. I see three main problems. First, the marketing of hatred. The case of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle forcefully makes the point. The data analyst's bot Sentinel looked at 114,000 Twitter posts about the couple since January 2020 and found two things. Firstly, that 55 accounts had been set up solely to post negative material about them, and 28 more accounts had been set up to amplify those messages. And secondly, that the Twitter algorithm, which suggests people you might want to follow, urged someone who had viewed one hate account or message to follow several others. These 83 accounts were responsible for 70% of the negative content targeted on the couple. One account posted 111,031 messages about them. Bot Sentinel reckons there are 264 single-purpose hate accounts solely targeting Harry and Meghan. To the innocent bystander, it looks like the whole world hates Harry and Meghan. No, there we are. But this is not just ordinary, spontaneous or altruistic hatred. It is deliberate and coordinated. It uses social media recommender systems to amplify hatred. Like all clickbait, it uses hatred to entice people to follow a link to an article on another client webpage where money is to be made, which is how it knowingly monetizes hatred, as shown by the network of YouTube channels that notched up 497 million views and $3.48 million on the back of hateful and inaccurate material about Meghan alone. 3 YouTube channels, Yankee Wally, Murky Meg, and according to Taz, had more than 70 million views and earned $494,730, all on the back of hatred of Meghan. The same goes for UK newspapers that fill their online sites with hateful Meghan material. It is becoming their richest clickbait seam, apart perhaps from the sidebar of shame on Mail Online. It drives viewing and earns advertising income, which is why so many British opinion writers pen so much drivel about the couple, not because the story matters, it doesn't, not because the writer genuinely cares about it, they don't, but because it makes money. That is not journalism. It's a perversion of journalism. And yet again, it means that the press see other people's lives as commodities to be traded.
You're such a fraud.